Well, I don't know if I have to start with a joke or to start with not knowing surprises. In fact, Auntie Kate, we call her Auntie Kate, never told me she was going to elevate me to the level of a chief this morning. Yeah. So, Honorable Minister of Information, Honorable John Kologotia, Mr. Cabra, Ambassador, Mr. Lawali Cole, Coordinator of WGCOMED, Mr. Ransford Tete, President, Ghana Journalists Association, and all the regional coordinators here present, colleagues, media men and women. It's indeed an honor this morning to be elevated to the status of a chief. And as custom demands, as a chief, I'll speak briefly and then let my linguist. Professor K didn't know I was going to appoint her linguist, but I'm going to appoint her linguist from today, so that as a linguist, she will translate the brief words I gave here today and the promises. But all jokes aside, it is indeed an honor. I first got this invitation to do the co-host when I was traveling in South Africa. Actually, I was at the University of South Africa, UNISA, when I received a very long, detailed email inviting me to consider co-hosting this event in Accra. This came from Mr. Lawali. I thought about it, and I said, well, I know Professor Kate had been going to these meetings over all these 4 years. She's been asking permission. I've been writing and giving her permission to go. She's briefed me on a number of occasions what is going on, and has even given me a copy of the abridged version of the toolkit. I've read some of it, but not detailed enough. So what can I do? I was reassured that by accepting to be the co-host, I'll just play a minor role. And I'm not surprised this morning to learn that I am supposed to play a leading role. And nevertheless, I accept that offer on behalf of the University of Ghana, on behalf of the Institute of Continuing and Distance Education, and on my own behalf. I accept the challenge to work with COMED in all the days of my life. Another biblical, education as a tool for development. The two previous speakers, for the last one in particular, talk about Africa for Africans and mention culture and language as a tool to express that. My sister from Botswana also talked about the social cultural conditions in the Southern African region. And I must say that these conditions are very similar to what we have in Ghana and the rest of the West African sub-region. What we mean when we say education is a tool for development. There are all forms of education, as we know, but for us here gathered this morning, the issue of information and development and how to disseminate the information is what I think comes to mind. The African content is very important, but how do we really ensure that what we have is an African content? I want to remind all of us gathered here that African content is not new. And African content of anything we do should be within the framework of the global content. After all, Africa from historical times had been the birthplace of civilization and had continued to do so for many years. Recently, we all heard the announcement that Africa has the potential to be the fastest growing economy in any continental bloc in the world. And Ghana, for example, has been cited as the fastest growing country in the whole world for 2011. 2012, 2013, there are also predictions that Africa, and especially Ghana, will continue to grow. What role does education play in this continued growth? I want us to reflect on that. And what role do journalists have in this process of growth and continued growth? I love critical thinking, and I believe that by asking the hard questions and continuously asking the hard questions, we'll be able to find some solutions to our peculiar Ghanaian or African problems. After all, problems and solutions do not live far apart from each other. Wherever there are problems, solutions are close. So we have to look deep inside ourselves, inside our own milieu of our socio-cultural and economic issues, and then come up with solutions that are tailor-made to our specific geographical landscape that we find ourselves in. For many years, the African education has been described as very, very theoretical and not practical. Some of us who went through the colonial education system will bear testimony to the fact that we've been made to learn so many theories without much practical aspect of it. That perhaps also explains why there is still unemployment, why there's still a disconnect between what we study in school and what the job market really offers. I'm calling on this body to look into the toolkits very well and see how these toolkits will be used to translate our academics from being theoreticians to being practitioners. For the media in particular, being a practitioner means providing coverage and being very, very balanced and objective in the way you project the coverage. Information, evaluation, and the relevance of it all involves participation. And in our democratic governance period that we are in, we believe that if proper information is given and well evaluated, and this information is relevant to people's daily lives, they will participate in finding solutions to the common problems that face them. Having said that, now let me direct little attention to the institute that I represent, and then end up with the promise that I gave to begin with. In the last 63 years, the Institute of Continuing and Distance Education has carried the University of Ghana's presence, standards, and curricula into Ghanaian cities, towns, and villages. The Institute began in 1948, actually around the same time that the University of Ghana started, as the Department of Extramural Studies. The department evolved into the Institute of Public Education in the early 80s and was renamed Institute of Adult Education in 1966. In fact, as the Institute of Public Education, the first president of Ghana made sure that this Institute of Public Education was used as a means to educate the public, not only about government policies, but about development issues. Now, the name change was necessitated in the 1960s by the desire to promote adult education as a discipline through teaching of courses to the award of degrees and non-degree programs. Recently, in 2009, following global trends in higher education that now focus on lifelong learning and distance education as a hallmark to our global world, the Institute of Adult Education was renamed Institute of Continuing and Distance Education. Our mission. Mr. Lawale, may interest you to know that the mission of ICDE, which is the Institute of Continuing and Distance Education, is a commitment to the development of world-class human resources and capacities relevant to the needs of Ghana and other African countries through continuing and ICT-based distance education. That is our central mission. Our vision is to be the center of excellence for the efficient delivery of university-based continuing and distance education to meet the challenges of national development and global competition of the 21st century. So, Mr. Lawal, I promise you that with this mission, we will be able to assist and further advance the cause of COMED. We've had a long history of doing this through the University of Ghana's external degree program, which established the workers' colleges throughout the country. We've also done that by preparing candidates for the GCE and A levels. We've done distance education by offering diploma in youth and development studies, and we've been collaborating with several institutions abroad, offering HIV/AIDS caregiving and counseling, and HIV/AIDS stigma reduction by education. So we have a history of doing collaboration, and we have a history of successfully delivering what we are supposed to do, which is education for the broad masses of Ghanaians. Now, we've been able to provide assistance to many NGOs and other government institutions in supervising the development of course modules. And I'm very, very happy to, at this point, acknowledge my mother, my mentor, my former colleague, or actually former director, Professor Kate Adwedeku, because her initiation is actually what brought me into this COMED, because she had been there, and as you can testify, she's used all the skills and principles that she has learned from this institute to be a central pillar in the COMED family. So let me acknowledge Professor Kate Adwedeku here. So we have the ability and the power to supervise the development of course modules, train course writers, provide student counseling and support services all over the country through our senior members, senior staff, and graduate students. And I'm also happy to note that some of our graduate students are here and some of my other colleagues are here. We organize examinations and assessments, and we supervise and assist weekend tutorials. With the foregoing, the Institute of Continuing and Distance Education, University of Ghana, is in a position to enter into full partnership with WGCOMED to achieve its purposes. Moving forward, I will work with you, Mr. Lawale, and your colleagues to design a non-print version of this module. Today we have the print version, but as we move into the 21st century, it is our desire to move into the e-learning mode and the e-learning platform to ensure that this toolkit will be available to all peoples wherever they may be, so long as they have access to a mobile phone. Because this technology now, the e-learning technology now is on the mobile phone. So if we're able to work with individuals, they will be able to access these materials on their mobile phone. If they don't have PCs, well, they may have iPad, iPad 1 or iPad 2, or some Samsung Galaxy or whatever technology they have. Because we are in the technology revolution, and Africa should not feel that we don't have the capacity to deliver. There are so many platforms, online e-learning platforms, that are cheap, that are even free. They are open sources. And I will work with COMED to identify these and then provide a training to ensure that people are freely aware that they can use this so that this toolkit will reach places. With that said, I believe I've exceeded my time. I thought I was going to speak for 10 minutes. I think I've done 15 minutes. So thank you very much for the opportunity. I look forward to working with the group.